So to close the show today, we're going to do another edition of the Front Office Frenzy, and if you don't know what the Front Office Frenzy is, it is a segment in which I draw a team randomly for a hat, this hat to be specific. Oop, let's put this back in the hat, and you can see all of these names here. I'm going to basically pick one of these teams from random, and I have 15 minutes or less to make a logical and reasonable game plan for that team to be in the playoffs by next season. And I have basically no notes in front of me. What I have is a Microsoft Word document with bullet points, small bullet points that can help me out for every single NFL team. But apart from that, I basically have to lay out a perfect logical game plan for how that team can be in the playoffs by the end of next season. And I have to do it all off the top of my head. And I get no help with this. I get no help. So today's team is going to be... Let's go to the bottom of the pile. Let's go to the bottom of the pile today. Kind of been drawing from the top. Okay. Oh, had a couple. I had one that was stuck to my fingers here. Okay. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. It's kind of, we talked about the Patriots already a little bit today with the J.J. Watt being released, but this is a really good one to do. Okay. The New England Patriots. Let me just find the Patriots in my note here. And again, all I have in my notes are basically a couple of bullet points. I've got the record, I've got the cap space, I've got the amount of draft picks, and I have like 2 or 3 small big bullet points, a free agent or maybe an important draft pick. Literally just small things to help guide me along. So I don't completely just ramble on about nothing. So, with that being said, here we go. Start your timer right now. So, things to know about the New England Patriots. Finished the season 7-9 last year. They have $62 million in cap space, and they have 7 picks in the NFL draft this upcoming draft. The biggest thing to note, and I think this is important to get out of the way early, is that the Patriots were missing multiple defensive starters last season due to the opt-out. Those players included Dante Hightower, Patrick Chung. Those people will be back, and they still have some time on their contracts. They're not free agents either. So that by itself is going to make the New England Patriots a better team straight out of the gate. Specifically, Dante Hightower is going to be a great return. He's going to definitely shore up that run game. The run defense was one of the defense's worst attributes for the New England Patriots last season. So that's going to shore up that run defense right away. But I think the biggest question for New England this offseason is not only finding offensive weapons, but finding a quarterback to replace Cam Newton. Because, let's be honest, Cam Newton was a dumpster fire last season. He had basically 2 good games at the start of the season, and then he looked like he had no idea what he was doing for the rest of the time. So the New England Patriots need a quarterback, and again, they have $62 million in cap space. They can get somebody like Deshaun Watson or Dak Prescott or even Carson Wentz if they really wanted to try and make a play on Wentz, but I think Belichick is smarter than that. But regardless, that quarterback for the New England Patriots cannot be Cam Newton next season. I think that would be a ginormous mistake. And as we talked about on the last episode of the Hard-Headed Sports podcast, we basically predicted the starting quarterback for every team in the NFL. If you haven't watched that video, go give it a watch. I said that Gardner Minshew would be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots this next season. And again, I'm going to double down on that sentiment. I think Gardner Minshew would be a fantastic quarterback for the New England Patriots. Look, odds are is that he probably ends up staying in Jacksonville as a backup. But on the off chance that Gardner Minshew, who is a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL, the odds that he decides to try and leave Jacksonville, he tries to request a trade, on the off chance of that happening, I think he would be a perfect fit in New England, and basically here's why. One of Belichick's best attributes as a head coach, as a general manager, has always been being able to turn other teams' trash into the Patriots' treasure. And Gardner Minshew would be a perfect example of that. I'm not calling Gardner Minshew trash. He had obviously a 1-15 season. He wasn't the best quarterback on the face of the earth, but he certainly was not the worst. I can think of a couple of more quarterbacks that were worse in the NFL this season than Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is under contract for 2 more years. I think he's got 2 more years on the contract with the Jaguars. But obviously, the Jaguars are going to be drafting Trevor Lawrence this year. I mean, Urban Meyer was literally sitting in front of Trevor Lawrence during Trevor Lawrence's pro day, talking with Dabo Swinney. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen more surefire confidence that the Jaguars are going to be taking this player at number 1. And again, Minshew is not the best arm talent. He doesn't have the best, legs. He's not the most gifted physically. What he is a fantastic leader. And if we take a look at what Belichick likes in a quarterback and what Belichick was able to do with Cam Newton, who's not a good leader this season, the Patriots were still 7-9 by the end of the season, in a season in which they shouldn't have been anywhere close. So Gardner Minshew is, without a doubt in my mind, a very good, cheap upgrade for the quarterback position for the New England Patriots. And you can basically use the cap space that you have to try and get other players while Gardner Minshew is a quarterback for the New England Patriots. Another option is Ryan Fitzpatrick. It really comes down to who you want. Do you want a similar style player who has more experience? He's a journeyman quarterback. He's been in the league for longer in Ryan Fitzpatrick. Or do you want the younger quarterback in Gardner Minshew? And again, I would take either of those. I think I would lean probably more towards Gardner Minshew because he is younger. He's got the longer contract. There's no worry about him retiring anytime soon. And you may say, well, why not draft a rookie quarterback? And my answer to that is really because Belichick, that's not Belichick's MO, really. I mean, apart from Brady, he's only drafted, Jared Stidham and Jimmy Garoppolo? That's not... And obviously Jimmy G is in the 49ers camp right now, but Jarrett Stidham hasn't looked like anything special at all. So not only is Belichick not that great at drafting, and I say that after he drafted Tom Brady, but regardless, in recent history, before everybody jumps on my case, he's not been good at drafting quarterbacks, and I don't think that Belichick's that crazy about any of the QBs in the draft. And I'm not sure that when it comes to the time for the Patriots to pick in the first round, that there's going to be a quarterback available, and B, a quarterback available that Belichick actually likes. So I think Gardner Minshew would be a really good guy to run the offense for this next couple of seasons. He's a Band-Aid quarterback until you can find somebody else. But Belichick, when you take a look at what he was able to do with Cam Newton, will be able to do much, much better with somebody like Gardner Minshew. He is a good locker room leader. He's not the most gifted athletically, but Belichick can, as I keep alluding to, if you can go 7-9 with Cam Newton, you can do much better with Gardner Minshew, and he's going to be a better leader for that locker room. So that leads us to the $62 million in cap space in free agency, which this makes it so fun for me. Like, for a team like the Vikings that are in negative cap space, I'm like, well, you really can't do anything here. You basically got to restructure your contract. But for the Patriots, I can go full Madden GM mode here and just start naming off names that I'm signing in free agency. Whoever the quarterback is for the New England Patriots, he is going to need a weapon or 2 or 3 or 4. And the good news is that this year's wide receiver free agency class is probably one of the best I have seen in a long, long time. As long as you sign a number 1 wide receiver, you can consider this free agency a success for the New England Patriots. As long as you get one, you're golden. Kenny Golladay, Allen Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster. If you want to trade for like an Odell Beckham Jr. from Cleveland, who Cleveland has kind of shown that they can win without Odell, and they don't necessarily need Odell. So obviously there's been rumors on and off about Odell changing teams this season. As long as you get one, Godwin, Golladay, Robinson, Juju Smith-Schuster, as long as you get a wide receiver 1 in this free agency, you can consider that a pretty good success for the Patriots. They need to get a guy because Nikhil Harry is a bust. Cam Newton had nobody to throw to last year, even if he wanted to or even if he was able to. They basically had nobody. Jacoby Myers is a nice young slot piece. I think Jacoby Myers is probably the best wide receiver on that team. Nikhil Harry has not shown me enough to warrant that. I think Nikhil Harry is a straight-out bust, to be honest with you. Regardless, is that the Patriots need to find offensive weapons in this free agency, and there are a lot of wide receivers that will be available to help them do that. Also, they can definitely shore up the defensive line. J.J. Watt, as we mentioned earlier in the show, by chance, I had no idea that I was going to choose the Patriots today. He would be a great fit, I think, to really get some pass rush in the AFC East, especially with some more passing teams like the Buffalo Bills, who have chosen to be a more centralized passing team with Josh Allen. J.J. Watt will probably rush all over whoever is unlucky enough to be the Jets starting quarterback next season, whether that's a rookie QB, whether that's Darnold, and obviously Tua is a young QB in Miami, so I think Watt could be basically a feast guy. He can absolutely have a feast in the AFC East, but if you're not going to get J.J. Watt, maybe somebody like Jadeveon Clowney is somebody that I would probably go after. Now, Clowney is one of those guys that you could probably get at a cheaper price, because let's be honest, Clowney has never lived up to his potential or his hype that he was as a number one pick. And again, one of the things that I said at the very beginning of this segment is that Bill Belichick is perennially good at turning others' teams' trash into the Patriots' treasure. Just look at how many players have gone to the New England Patriots over the past 20 years while Tom Brady was there, and even while he wasn't there, but mostly while he was there. Look at how many players went to New England and had revitalized careers for one reason or another. It's a serious thing. I don't know how Belichick does it. It's one of the things that makes him one of the best coaches this league has ever seen. He can turn trash into treasure. And again, I'm not saying people like Gardner Minshew or Jadeveon Clowney are trash, but they're definitely not the first pick for a lot of NFL teams. And that really aids itself well to Belichick. So I think if you sign somebody like Clowney, you'll get him at a cheaper price. He'll be up and down in sacks. He's been up and down in sacks pretty much his entire career. Sometimes it'll be basically like a coin flip. You'll either get a lot of sacks or you won't get a lot of sacks. But what Clowney is really good at is penetrating the line and really helping in the run game. And that's something that the Patriots really desperately needed this past season. Again, that will help with the return of Hightower at the linebacker position. But the Patriots do need some help on the defensive line. And also, I think the Patriots have a couple of offensive linemen that are in free agency as well. The left guard, whose name is escaping right now. It's always the offensive linemen's names that I forget when I'm doing this segment. Always the offensive linemen. I know that Andrews is the center. I think he played all 16 games this year, but he had a pretty bad injury in 2019. I think signing Andrews is a really good move. I would probably sign him over this mystery guard, who I'm forgetting this name, unfortunately, but he's been one of the best guards in the league. And I think that if you had to choose, I would probably let him go. And I know that's kind of a confusing decision for some people, but if you're bringing in all this offensive talent, I think that the Patriots have a really good. They found a gem in the draft. It was a guard that they found who, as I was researching for a different segment at one point, I remember him being like a 6th round pick, and he had one of the highest rankings at his position this season. Patriots fans, if you know who I'm talking about, please put it in the comment section. But I would probably let Joe go. That's his name, Joe Thuney. That's his name. Thank God. I would probably let Joe go. And create some more cap space. You have $62 million, but trust me, that $62 million can go very quickly, especially if you're signing multiple offensive weapons and a high-end defensive end. That'll go very quickly. Another person I would re-sign is James White, who is one of the best pass-catching running backs in the entire NFL, probably only second or third to somebody like Alvin Kamara over in New Orleans. But other than that, I think James White is somebody that you need to re-sign. He's shown some spurts in the run game as well, and if you really want to, you can try and address the running back position later in the draft with maybe your 4th or 5th round pick. I think that's pretty much all I would say about the free agency. Again, $62 million in cap space is a lot of fun to work with, because you can just start going full video game mode on everything, saying, I want this guy, I want this guy, I want that guy. And that's really fun to do. So moving on to the draft, I'm not quite sure where we are on time, but I'm pretty sure I'm running a little low because we talked about the QB situation for a little while. The Patriots have 7 picks in this year's draft. I don't think they have a 3rd round pick. I think I have this in my notes somewhere. They don't have a 3rd round pick. So with the number one pick. With their 1st round pick, a lot of people are projecting that the Patriots take a quarterback. And I'm just saying, I don't know that that's Belichick's MO to take a quarterback like that. I think he'll probably try and make do with somebody else, whether that's Carson Wentz, whether that's Deshaun Watson, whether that's somebody like Gardner Minshew. Obviously, there's different. I would rather have somebody like Deshaun Watson over Gardner Minshew, but I don't think the Patriots can send enough to Houston to be able to warrant that trade. And it doesn't look like the Texans are going to be trading him anyway, based on the other conversations from today. But regardless, the 1st round pick for the Patriots, I think they should take the tight end from Florida, Kyle Pitts. Normally, I would really make fun of picking a tight end in the 1st round. I laughed hysterically when the Lions drafted T.J. Hawkinson. He ended up being a Pro Bowler, but still, I'm genuinely frown on tight ends in the 1st round. But I think Kyle Pitts out of Florida, he's got more of a wide receiver build. He's very attuned to maybe a Darren Waller in today's NFL. He's got really good upside. He's tremendous physically, and he really has the potential to be the next great tight end in this league. And the Patriots have been really lackluster at tight end basically since Gronkowski retired. And I think it would be really good for the Patriots to draft a tight end, especially if they get a wide receiver in free agency, like I think that they should. That'll be really dynamic. That'll give the quarterback, whoever that may be, another person to throw to. Kyle Pitts has the next opportunity to be the next great tight end in the league in a couple of years. I would take that chance, and even not, he's got a wide receiver's body anyway. I think he's 6'7", like a really big wide receiver. So I would draft Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida, with my 1st round pick. 2nd round pick. I would go offense. I mean, the defense for the Patriots was genuinely pretty good this year, except for the run game. That's something that you can patch up in free agency. Round 2, I would take T.J. Vasher out of Texas Tech. This guy has the potential to be the DK Metcalf of this draft. He's 6'5", 220 pounds. He can be an absolute freak. Those of you who have watched any Texas Tech football over the past couple of years recognize this guy's name. And I think that this guy can definitely be a number 1 wide receiver in a couple of years, if not a number 2 wide receiver. Again, Nikhil Harry, who they drafted a couple years ago, has been a complete bust at wide receiver. I think this guy would be a more sure bet than Nikhil Harry. He's got some mechanic issues, but again, he has the opportunity to be the DK Metcalf of this draft. And if you don't want to take a wide receiver in 2nd round, you don't want to go so heavy on the offense, you should probably take another defensive end, shore up that defensive line, maybe somebody like a Rashad Weaver. If he's still available at that point, you have the potential to get a steal for somebody that's dropped from the 1st round. And the Patriots don't have a 3rd round pick, like I said, and as we've done on the show a number of times, or as we said, I don't know if we said it explicitly, but when we talk about the draft, we only cover the team's first 3 picks or the picks up to the 3rd round, so I don't have to just make completely ridiculous calls about the no names that are going to get drafted in the 4th, 7th round. The people that, as my dad would say, the who. So that's the end of the segment. I don't know how long we went for. I felt like I talked a long time. So stop your stopwatches now. I always feel like I talk more than I actually do. I don't think I've gone over 15 minutes yet. I think I've hit the mark every single time. But regardless, that was this show's edition of the Front Office Frenzy. We covered the Patriots today. We've already covered the 49ers, the Vikings, and I almost called them the Redskins again, the Washington football team. We covered the Patriots today. Tune in next time to figure out if we do your team next. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching this segment from the Hard Headed Sports Podcast. You've heard what I've had to say. Now I'm interested to hear what you think as well. If you enjoyed this highlight from the show and want to watch more highlights from the show as they come out after the show's completion, you should definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you're interested in listening to the entire show in its full-length entirety, you should follow the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you all very soon.